I hope you can see the screen. Let me just check my earphones. All right. Okay. Firstly, let us understand, what is a cloud, right? So cloud is what? Anything that is on the internet, any kind of computing services that you're going to use over the internet, right? So any kind of computing services that you're using over the internet is kind of a cloud, right? So just give me a moment. I will, open the presentation that I have prepared. Can you see the screen? Okay. Anyway, no one is going to respond. Right. So we'll start with cloud computing. I will make it full screen. Yeah. So what is cloud actually, right? We'll start with that. So let's go through the definition first, and then we'll try to understand through an analogy, right? So cloud computing is basically, distributing of your computing services. Now, what could be these computing services, right? You could use a server, a storage, maybe a database, some kind of networking, right? Some softwares, analytics, some kind of intelligence, right? Anything that is over the internet that helps you with the computing thing, it is cloud, right? So what is cloud actually? Cloud is the use of computing services over the internet, right? So how does it help us? Basically, faster innovation. You can have flexible resources, right? आपको server हर जगह लेकर के घूमना नहीं पड़ेगा. So basically, if you let's say you have a server at home and you're connected to it to the internet, you can work from anywhere in the world, right? Unless and until your servers are connected to the internet. Now, even before we move to the cloud, do you know what is a server? Anyone, if you would try to answer this question, what is a server? Please write it in the chat. What is a server? Yeah. So server can be anything, right? So basically your storage, your RAM, your cache memory, right? Anywhere that you can run the software is a server, right? Now, this place where you run the server is the software. And when we take the server to the internet, we connect it to the internet, it becomes your cloud, right? Your cloud server. Okay. All right. Let's now move ahead. Yeah. Now, why do we need cloud actually? Need क्या है cloud की? First thing, आप अपने business को faster run कर सकते हो, right? अगर let's say you're going to build a server at your home, it will be costly. ठीक है, आप storage खरीदोगे, then there will be maintenance associated with it. ठीक है, you will be making cache memory, right? Cache memory is very expensive. Again, आपको उसका भी maintenance करना पड़ेगा. You will have to look for security layers, right? Again, that would need man force, and then there are other things that require money. Now, let's say you're going to run your own servers, right? You think of running your own servers. Now, what will be the problem with that again? You'll have to pay a hefty sum at a once, right? आपको electricity run करनी पड़ेगी to keep the servers connected to the internet. This is where the cloud service providers comes in. This is where we try to learn the AWS, right? So AWS क्या है? Basically जो आप server बनाओगे उसको internet पे connect करोगे. AWS has its own server. उसने उसको internet से connect कर दिया है, and then you are the end user who will just pay for what you're going to use in that server, right? Chalo, let's move forward. Now, what are some examples of, let's say, cloud services that you use? Obviously, you use email services, right? आप Gmail use करते हो, you use Outlook, right? You use Zoho Mail, let's say. So आप क्या कर रहे हो? You're using these email services over the internet, and these email services are hosted where? On a cloud. Now, there are online storages, AWS S3, that is, what we are going to learn in this course. Then you use Google Drive, for example, right? So OneDrive, these all are, again, part of cloud. There are streaming services. So you use Amazon, Netflix, Geo, right? All these things are connected to you over the internet, that is through cloud. Now, we have already seen the benefits, but let's see in detail, right? So, what are the key benefits? Accessibility, obviously, आप कहीं से भी access कर सकते हो, right? Anywhere in the world, all you need is an internet data and an internet plan, right? उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं चाहिए. Scalability, you can, have more storage anytime. ठीक है, आपको लग रहा है कि let's say, you're running, let's say, Netflix जैसी company. Now you had 100 movies, you use 100, TB of storage, right? अब you're getting more movies. You can scale anytime. So scalability is one of the key benefits of cloud. Cost efficiency, obviously, आपको एक बार में बहुत ज्यादा पे नहीं करना पड़ रहा एक्सपेंसिव हार्डवेयर के लिए. You're going to only pay for what you use, right? एक छोटा सा सब्सक्रिप्शन अमाउंट रहेगा, right? That you're going to pay every month. That includes the maintenance as well as it's running electricity, everything. Now, collaboration, right? अब let's say अगर आपके पास सर्वर घर पे है, it's offline. People can only work when they are present at your office, connected to a LAN, something like that, right? But if it is on the cloud, people can use it anywhere on the world, right? So multiple people can work at the same file, same project at different locations. I hope this much is clear to you guys. Please confirm. All right. Finally, a message after so much time. Okay, let's move forward. Sure. Let's go to the next step. Now, there are some key characteristics of the cloud that you're going to use. What are these? So they are mentioned here. So there is on-demand self-service. So आप अपने से use कर सकते हो, कभी भी use कर सकते हो, right? There is broad network access, obviously, right, that we discussed right now. There is resource pooling and there is rapid elasticity. So we'll go through the definition of each one by one. Okay. So let's start with the first one. That is your on-demand self-service. Just give me a moment, guys. Yeah, sorry, I was getting a call. So what is on-demand self-service? Basically, you can use your, computing resources. What are the computing resources? Servers, storages, let's say, some kind of applications such as mailing applications, right? Whenever you need, right, without requiring any human interaction, right? So you can use it by yourself. किसी को बोलना नहीं पड़ रहा आपको करने के लिए, right? So that is your one of the key characteristics of cloud, right? Now, the second is the broad access network. We don't need to discuss this, right? We have already seen that, you just need a laptop anywhere in the world, you can use it with just internet, right? Now, the third is resource pooling. Now, how does the resource pooling work? Let's say there are so many people using the, one resource of the over the internet. Let's say database. But ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि आप हर कोई वही same database को बार बार use कर रहा होगा. It might be, empty at some point of time. So, in order not to waste it, we do resource pooling, right? Now, the next one is rapid elasticity. As simple as that, आप कभी भी अपने usage को बढ़ा या घटा सकते हो according to your own usage, right? So, if you have more demand of the, storage, you can increase it anytime. Let's say आपके users चले जाते हैं for any reason, right? The business won't suffer any loss because you can reduce your usage at that time. I hope these four characteristics are clear to you guys. All right. Now, there is a thing like आपने हमने सुना कि क्लाउड क्या होता है. क्लाउड इज लाइक सर्वर्स ओवर द इंटरनेट. अब हम सर्वर्स को किसी भी तरह से अरेंज कर सकते हैं, राइट? वी कैन अरेंज दिस सर्वर्स इन एनी पैटर्न वी वांट, एनी वे वी वांट. नाउ इफ यू आर गोइंग टू कीप इट एट अ सेपरेट पैटर्न, इट विल हैव इट्स ओन नेम. सो बहुत तरह के क्लाउड्स हो सकते हैं, ठीक है? तो व्हाट आर द काइंड ऑफ क्लाउड्स वी आर लुकिंग फॉर? लेट्स सी. Let me just click here. This profile. Okay. So what are these? A public cloud, a private cloud, or a hybrid cloud. So broadly, we can classify a cloud into these three kinds of clouds. So first is the public cloud. As the name suggests, कोई भी इसे use कर सकता है. Any public, over a public internet you can use it, right? So public cloud is a cloud computing model where services are offered over the public internet, right? And shared across multiple organizations. For example, Gmail. Anyone can use a Gmail, right? There is no need to be in a specific organization for using a Gmail. Now, similarly, there is a private cloud. A private cloud में क्या होगा? The cloud will become private. The resources will become private. So they are only available for a single organization. जैसे for example, let's say you are going to work in Oracle. So Oracle के कुछ resources होंगे that you will be using specifically within that organization. Right? You will get an email, let's say rahul@oracle.com. It's a custom domain email जो कि आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ उस private organization के अंदर आप उसको use कर सकते हो. Now there is this hybrid cloud system जहाँ पे आप public and private cloud को mix करते हो, right? Let's move forward. Now there are some cloud service models as well. अब क्लाउड सर्विस मॉडल्स क्या होता है कि आप किस तरीके से क्लाउड को यूज कर रहे हैं इन द सेंस दैट व्हाट पोर्शन ऑफ द क्लाउड यूर यूजिंग, राइट? कितने लेयर्स ऑफ क्लाउड्स यूर यूजिंग. सो क्लाउड इज डिवाइडेड इनटू मल्टीपल लेयर्स, right? So there is infrastructure as a service when you're just going to use the infrastructure of the cloud, right? And then you're going to build top of that platform when you're using the cloud as a platform, and then going to build software just on top of that, right? And then there is a software as a service, SaaS platforms, right? Just for example, के लिए most of the platforms that you're going to use over the internet currently are SaaS platforms. For example, your Gmail is a SaaS platform. Your Netflix is a SaaS platform. ठीक है, आप Jira software use करते हो for ticket management system. That's a SaaS platform. I've used Canva for making this PPT. This Canva is a SaaS platform, right? We're using Zoho Meeting. Zoho is a SaaS platform. ठीक है? Let's move ahead. Now, see what are the differences we are going to see over the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? So what the IaaS provides, so basic infrastructure, it could be your compute, your storage, your network, your database, right? So user की responsibility क्या होती है इसमें? They use the operating system, वो खुद से बनाते हैं. They make the middleware, right? Runtime, उनकी data, उनका applications they're going to build on their own, right? The provider, what is the provider going to provide? Who is the provider here? Like AWS, all those people, right? वो क्या provide करते हैं? They are providing the virtualization, servers, storage, networking. Again, what we saw here, right? Basic infrastructure. जब आप PaaS में आते हो, so basically a platform as a service. What they're going to provide? They're going to provide the operating system, could be Linux, right? Up Windows, anything that you need, right? They could provide middleware, runtime. आप क्या बनाते हो? Platform on top of that. So your applications, your data, right? Everything. Now, for Netflix, let's say the user will view as it is a SaaS. But Netflix ने कहीं ना कहीं से storage लिया होगा, कहीं ना कहीं से उसने database लिया होगा. For the Netflix, that guy will be a SaaS, platform as a service, right? Now, so you just use the software in the SaaS, so software as a service. So everything is provided by the whoever is going to provide is the responsibility that they're going to provide everything. So infrastructure, platform, software, everything they're going to provide, right? I hope this is clear to you guys. Please confirm once. Please be active on the chat. Yeah? All right. Chalo. Now let's see some applications that are mentioned here. So a business application, what could be a business application? A CRM, a ERP software. What could be a ERP software? Let's see. So there are ERP software that is used to run schools, school enterprises. So they're enterprises resource planning, right? So you're going to, let's say, plan for your schools, your attendance monitoring system, your fees payment system. So everything is in ERP software, right? Now, in the healthcare department, obviously you will be using some medical imaging storage, like patient management system, right? So all these kind of applications are your cloud applications, right? So you use LMS, right? For example, I guess if you're from LP, you use MyClass. MyClass is an LMS, right? You use virtual classes. In the finance, you use digital payments, trading platforms such as Grow, right? All these are examples of cloud softwares, right? Cloud-based softwares. Now, what could be future of cloud? Let me just tell you, everything over the internet is cloud. So, the whole internet depends on this cloud infrastructure. So your edge computing integration, your artificial intelligence and machine learning, like serverless computing and multi-cloud and hybrid cloud solutions. Now, you see, there's a serverless computing. Do you think that in the serverless computing there is no server? And can anyone take a guess of what is the difference between server and serverless computing? Can anyone take a guess what is the server and serverless computing difference? Please attempt once. All right, I think no one knows. No worries. तो कोई difference नहीं होता. The only difference is, see, serverless में the server is managed by a company and other organization rather than you. So a server and serverless, they work very much the same. But in a server, you are the one who will be managing it. In a serverless, there would be someone else who will be managing it. To give you an example of a serverless database management system, that's Neon. So let me just show them Neon DB, right? So let's say this is an example of a serverless. So in this, the post, let's say Postgres आप use कर रहे हो for database. This is not managed by you, but Neon will be managing it. This is an example of a serverless database, right? So you can go through this. All right. Let's see. Okay. So we have done with the first basic module, जो कि हमारा just the basic definitions of what cloud is and what everything are there, right? So please let me know if the first module is clear to you. There's nothing much to discuss in the first module. All right. ठीक है? We'll move forward with the second module. चलो, ठीक है. All right. So अभी हमने क्या सीखा कि हमारे cloud में there's a thing called PaaS, right? In that operating system is being provided and they're going to build on top of that, right? So what is an operating system? Can anyone of you please explain me over the chat? What is an operating system? And can anyone please explain what is zeros and ones? We all know that computer understand the language of zeros and ones. Yes, Ganesh. It's a interface between user and the hardware, right? So software and a hardware actually. The software and the hardware, it's a middleware in between, right? So we know that computer understands zeros and ones. What is zeros and ones? Yes, right, Mansa. What is zeros and ones, guys? Very basic question. Yeah, what is binary? I want to understand how do you define a zero and a one? Like computer को zero and one understand होता है? Do you think Mansa that computer understands zero and one? What actually is a zero and what actually is a one? They don't understand what actually is a zero and what actually is a one. Zeros and ones are signals, right? जब हम एक electric pulse डालते हैं ना, we send an electric pulse. That is counted as one, and in the duration we do not send the electric pulse. It is counted as a zero. So the computer doesn't actually understand zeros and ones. They understand the electric pulse, right? So electric signal gaya, that means one. Nahi gaya, that means zero, right? So do not confuse that, computer understands zero and one in actual sense. Zero is used to define no electric pulse. One is used to define that there is an electric pulse, right? Chalo. Let us understand what is the operating system. Everyone told me, but we'll see the definition that is written here. An operating system, or OS in short, is a system software that manages computer hardware, software resources, and provides common services for computer programs, right? So it's a same layer that acts as an intermediary for your users and your computer hardwares, right? Let's move on. Yeah, what are the functions again? Managing hardware resources, providing a very user interface, a GUI, right? A running app for running applications, for file management, for security and access control. Again, user interface. Let's talk about user interface, right? There are two kinds of user interface. Can anyone tell me what are those? Or I'll write it down for you. Please try to, explain me the difference. So there's a GUI and there's a CLI, right? There's a GUI and CLI. Please tell me the full forms first. Right. Graphical user interface and command line interface. So what are these? ग्राफिकल यूजर इंटरफेस में क्या ग्राफिक्स होते हैं, इमेजेस होते हैं, राइट? हर चीज को अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए, जैसे कि मुझे ये देख के समझ में आ रहा है that I can upload a file through this, right? It could be anything, a PDF file or right a doc file, right? कुछ भी हो सकता है. Similarly, I know this is a mute button. Now if I click on this, you won't be able to hear my voice. ठीक है? So this is a GUI. A command line interface is actually जहाँ पे आप command लिखते हो for making things happen. ठीक है, जैसे आप क्या करते हो, राइट क्लिक करते हो, न्यू फोल्डर क्लिक करते हो एंड द फोल्डर इज बीइंग क्रिएटेड. बट इन अ CLI you use a command something like mkdir, है ना? So that's the difference between GUI and CLI. Now to you, which do you think is more user friendly? GUI ज्यादा user friendly या फिर CLI ज्यादा user friendly है? Please write it down. Yes, obviously. Now an example for a CLI could be your DOS, right? CLI का एक example क्या हो सकता है? DOS. GUI का क्या एग्जाम्पल हो सकता है? मैक ओएस और विंडोज, राइट? आई होप दिस मच इज क्लियर टू यू. ठीक है, लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट पेज. नाउ there are multiple operating systems, है ना? So there is your Linux, there is your Windows, there is Mac OS, there is DOS. बहुत तरह के आपके operating systems होते हैं. But in this specific course, we will be focusing on the Linux operating system. Why Linux operating system? It is very versatile, very lightweight. ठीक है, आप इसको अपने हिसाब से customize कर सकते हो according to your own usage. You can define how much of it you want to be, keeping it as a GUI and a CLI. ठीक है, and in this course, obviously, by the name suggests, we are going to study AWS, right? So I want कि आप सब लोग go to AWS, you create a free tier account, ठीक है? Before we start our next lecture, right everyone? So next lecture के पहले try creating a AWS account. You see you're getting a free credit. So आप यहाँ पे अपने usage को कर सकते हो. चलो, let's see. So basically Linux, one of the more important things, it's an open source. So even before discussing further, what do you know what is an open source? Two kinds of softwares, right? Open source होते हैं and proprietary softwares होते हैं. Do you know the difference between proprietary softwares and open source softwares? Okay. So basically difference is proprietary softwares are paid. Open source में जो code होता है, जो source code is public, right? So anyone can use it for free. आप उसमें changes कर सकते हो. You can make your own distros. So basically आप अपने own versions बना सकते हो Linux के, right? So this is the difference between the open source and proprietary softwares. For example of a proprietary software could be, the Zoho meeting that I am using. It's a proprietary software. आप जो आप यूज करते हो वर्ड presentation, right? That comes under Microsoft Office. It's a proprietary software. It's a paid software. All right. Chalo. Let's see what is Linux.
So Linux is an open source Unix-like operating system. So why it is saying Unix-like? Because Linux se pehle there existed an operating system that was Unix. So Linux was based on Unix. Okay? So Unix-like operating system kernel developed by Linus Torvalds in 1991, right? It is widely used for its stability, security, and flexibility. Chalo. I think this much is clear to you guys. Let's move on to the next page. Okay, let's see, go to the history and development of Linux. So again, we saw that it was created by Linus Torvalds in 1991 as a free and open source alternative to Unix, right? So I told you there existed a operating system previous to Linux that was your Unix. उसी के inspiration से, sorry for the background noise, everyone. Just give a moment. All right. Yeah. So now the development, as the time grew, right? 1991 से भी बहुत time हो गया. So developers all around the world contributed to that. ठीक है, छोटे-छोटे lines of code डालते गए, improvements होते गए. And today's Linux is very powerful than what it was, once when it was launched, right? So the adaptation of Linux in production environments started taking off in the mid 1990s in this, upcoming, supercomputing community, right? Now, importance of Linux with respect to cloud computing, right? So most cloud computing infrastructure again relies on the Linux operating system, right? So आप कुछ भी अभी use करने जाओगे ना, mainly you will be using the Linux operating system, Linux-based commands, right? These operating systems are softwares that manage the cloud resources, similar to how an engine controls a car. So it's an analogy basically. So just like जैसे आपका operating system is controlling your your computer, similarly it's like how an engine controls the car, right? So what is Linux famous for? So what are the benefits? It's efficiency, again security, scalability, right? Basically all essential qualities of running a robust cloud environment, right? Now in the very first page of the Linux, we discussed that it's a operating system kernel, right? So what is a kernel? We'll go through that. Can anyone try to define what is a kernel even before I tell you? Kernel is not very different from a your operating system. It's a part of it, right? So पूरे operating system का एक part है the kernel, that is one of the most important parts of the operating system, right? So it basically acts as a bridge. किसके किसके बीच में bridge है? The applications that you are running and the computer hardware, right? ये kernels क्या क्या कर सकते हैं? What does the kernel do? So they basically they can monitor your CPU usage. They manage the CPU usage, right? आपके memory को manage करते हैं. What kind of memories can manage RAM, right? Yeah, system calls. All right. Yeah. So ये सारी चीजें हैं, right? They can do system calls for applications, right? Now let's see the definition that is being written here. A kernel acts as a bridge between applications, where the software program you use, and the computer hardware, physical components like CPU and the memory, right? It manages essential tasks like memory allocation. ठीक है? तो आप कुछ भी use कर रहे हो, आपको एक document open कर रहे हो, for that you need memory allocation, right? Device communication, you need security, right? So all these things are managed by a kernel. Now let's understand through an analogy. देखो, whenever you're trying to learn something from a computer, right? So हमेशा याद रखना that the computer has been made from human world examples, right? So always try to relate to human world examples. So see what an analogy we can get. Now imagine the kernel as a traffic controller, right? आप बहुत बड़े city में हो, right? So it tells car when to stop, when to go, right? When to halt, right? So it directs applications like cars to resources they need, roads and buildings, ensures everything runs smoothly and safely, right? It allocates basically memory spaces, for example, like lanes, right? Manages communication with devices like controlling traffic lights, and enforces, security measures. Now, Linux kernel. Again, it's open source, obviously, freely available for anyone to see, modify, distribute, right? So this helps, a lot of collaboration and rapid improvement. Now, it's a monolithic kernel. ठीक है? Monolithic kernel क्या होता है? That it comes from a same branch, right? उसका code बिल्कुल same है, right? So meaning most functionalities are built directly into the kernel itself. All right. So like आप बहुत तरह के architectures use कर सकते हो. You can use microservices, ठीक है, जहाँ पे हर एक service का खुद का एक core होता है, and then you mix it together and then you try to make a complete application out of it. But some things are built on monolithic architecture. For example, Google applications mainly work on monolithic architecture. ठीक है? Now it's known for its stability. Again, same lines जो हमने previously पढ़ा है. Now what are distributions? ठीक है? अब क्योंकि आई टोल्ड यू कि इसके जो सोर्स कोड है दैट आर ओपनली अवेलेबल, राइट? सोर्स कोड ओपनली अवेलेबल है, तो आप उसमें खुद के चेंजेस कर सकते हो. यू कैन मेक एनी चेंजेस यू वांट, राइट? अगर आप चेंजेस कर रहे हो दैट मींस इट्स अ डिफरेंट वर्जन ऑफ द ओरिजिनल लिनक्स, है ना? सो दीज चेंजेस trying to give it a different personality to Linux makes it a distribution or different distro. Let's see the definition. So distributions, often shortened for distros, are like pre-made packages that bring the entire Linux experience together. Now imagine it as a complete toolbox for the DIY project. Linux itself is like a powerful set of building blocks, right? We already saw that it has a very nice kernel, right? It has very good utilities. Now distributions take this building blocks and assemble them into a user-friendly operating system with additional software pre-installed, right? चलो. Now you can make it like a graphical user interface. जैसे आज के टाइम में बहुत सारे चलते हैं ना, Kali Linux is there, Ubuntu is there, right? So they have their own desktop environments, graphical interfaces आप उनको दे सकते हो. You can install some applications in it, right? So you can give them web browsers, office suites. Usually आप Linux पे directly Microsoft नहीं run कर सकते, Microsoft Office, but through some tweaks you can run that. These are your distros. They package management systems, right? Like easy software installations and updates. आपको बहुत ज़्यादा CLI वहाँ पे use नहीं करना पड़ता. Now let's go to the analogy, right? Now think of Linux distribution as a customized meal kit delivered to your home, right? The Linux kernel is like the main ingredient, ठीक है, जैसे protein हो गया, ठीक है? And the other, included softwares and tools are like the side dishes and spices, right? A complete meal kit बन जाता है for you, so you don't have to prepare it by yourself. Now, let's go and run through the important Linux distributions, right? Ubuntu, Fedora, right? CentOS is there, Arch Linux is there, Kali Linux is there, right? Can you do you know any others that you can define by yourself? आपने कोई भी Linux use किया हुआ है operating system? If yes, please write in the chat. Okay, Suradeep, you have used Ubuntu. Anyone else? All right. Now, networking. Have you went through the networking chapter in your subject in your college? आपने networking पढ़ा हुआ है? You know what is TCP, IP, SMTP, FTP? आपको ये चीजें पता है? All right. अच्छी बात है. चलो, we'll try to revise this अभी. ठीक है? Now, networking refers to basically connecting two or more computers together, right, to share resources like files, printers, like internet connections, right, everything. Now, let's see what is a TCP and IP, right? Even before that, can anyone please define me what is a protocol? I'll give you 1 minute. ठीक है? Please define me what is a protocol. क्योंकि आप कुछ भी पढ़ोगे ना TCP, IP, last word is protocol. Please give me a definition, guys. Yes, Ganesh, right. So protocols are basically set of rules, right? Regulations. अब आप एक structure वे में कर रहे हो चीजों को, right, Mansa? All right. उसी तरह से you can see transmission control protocols. If you want to do something over the internet, आप कुछ भी करना चाह रहे हो, so you have to follow protocol, a set of rules, right, that govern how data is being transmitted over networks. including the internet, right? So network does not only mean internet, right? Local networks भी हो सकते हैं, LAN cables भी हो सकते हैं, right? Now, let's see what is the difference between TCP and IP. So TCP is like a careful delivery service that makes sure every package you send arrives safely, right, in the right order and without any damage. So you send. अच्छा एक और चीज मेरे को जानना है आपसे. You should know that when you send a data, it does not go in whole chunk, right? Data आपका it is broken into smaller packets. ठीक है? अगर आप भेज रहे हो, let's say एक sentence, right? In the sentence, like this is a class. So it will be broken into this is a class, right? And then when it is received on the receiver's end, वो वापस से assemble किया जाता है. All right? Yeah. So if package gets lost or damaged, TCP will reset it until everything is correct. IP is like addressing system. So it's an address over the internet, right? That ensures every package is sent, and has the correct destination address. It knows where to go. Similar to IP, एक MAC address होता है, right? IP address के साथ साथ similar is a MAC address. MAC address is like the manufacturing address, right? So आपका एक physical address of the your system, right? आपके laptop का एक physical address. MAC address fixed रहता है, but IP address changes. Clear, everyone? Let's go to TCP/IP layers, right? So one is the application layer. See what it functions as. So basically, interface between applications and the provider's network, and that provides network to them, right? For example, your HTTP, like if you want to browse the internet, you need hypertext transmission protocol, right? अगर आपको फाइल ट्रांसफर करना है, अपलोड करना है, कुछ भी करना है, you need a FTP, is your file transfer protocol. अगर आपको email भेजना है, then you need SMTP. What does SMTP stand for? Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, right? Then there is this transport layer, right? So it provides reliable data transfer through error checking and flow control, right? So basically, आप जब data transfer कर रहे हो, तो आपको वहाँ पे errors check करना है, that the packets are not broken in between or something like that. Transport layer helps in that, right? It controls the flow of that data that is being sent, right? Example that we already saw the TCP, right? Then there is this UDP, right? Another one. Now let's move ahead. Now there is this internet layer. इससे क्या हो सकते हैं आपके? So it routes the data packets between devices across the internet, right? Across the networks. Example could be the IP, the internet protocol that we already saw. Now there is this again network access protocol. So most of the layers, हम उनके नाम से समझ सकते हैं कि what is the usage of them, right? Again, the network access layer, what could be that? Handles the physical transmission of the data over network media, right? What could be examples of that? Your Ethernet, your Wi-Fi, right, everyone? I hope these layers are clear to you all. Confirm. Right. Chalo. I hope so second module is also complete. Now the third module will be basically starting in the next class. जहाँ पे आप Linux commands देखोगे, ठीक है? You will be seeing what are the Linux commands, कैसे उसके usage होते हैं, ठीक है? Like for example, ls is used for list, cd is used for again pwd, mkdir, आप करते हो directly create करते हो, rm से आप remove करते हो, ठीक है? So all these things we will be using in the next class. ठीक है? Now, if you have any questions related to today's class, please ask. हमारे पास half an hour है, we can discuss it. मैं अभी क्लास को और ज़्यादा आगे नहीं बढ़ाऊंगा अभी. So what I expect of you is please go to this site, create your account, ठीक है? अपना अकाउंट बनाओ एक फ्री का. क्रेडिट कार्ड का इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए होता है उसमें, so please use someone's credit card. I think it is now also accepting debit cards or I don't know UPIs, but please check it once. ठीक है? So आप बहुत सारी चीजें use करोगे. You'll be using AWS S3, right? So that is used for storage. आप EC2 use करोगे, right? So those are instances are there जहाँ पे then you will be using yeah. So I have a question for you guys. Do you know what is a CDN? What is a CDN? Try to cover as much as theory in today's class. Everyone, class में है आप सब? Content delivery network, right? What is a content delivery network, Ganesh? Usually caches the website content. First thing is that कि CDN में क्या होता है कि it is distributed all over the world. ठीक है. अगर आपको कुछ भी एक्सेस करना है, ठीक है, लेट्स एग्जांपल, लेट्स से अगर आप अपना जो डेटा है, लेट्स से you're running आपने एक मूवी अपलोड किया है अपने मुंबई के सर्वर पे. If let's say someone from the US wants to watch it, it will be very hectic for him, right? So CDN क्या करता है ना, इसको all over the world distribute करता है, and then when you try to watch it, latency will be very low, load times will be very low, right? It is a network of servers basically that is distributed across multiple geographic locations. What is the latency? I think all of you have played PUBG earlier, right? वहाँ पे आप check करते होगे ना MS. What is the latency? Yeah, the delay. Request and response के बीच में जो delay आता है. The most important term जो कि मैंने अभी यहाँ पे नहीं बताया, what is data warehousing? Do you know? Does anyone know what is data warehousing? चलो, मेनली डेटा वेयर हाउसिंग जो है हम लेगेसी डेटा का करते हैं. व्हाट इज द लेगेसी डेटा? यूजुअली जो डे टू डे यूसेज में नहीं होता है यूज, ठीक है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल के लिए यू मस्ट बी यूजिंग लेट्स से फेसबुक, राइट? लेट्स जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जांपल, ठीक है. बट यू वोंट बी एक्सेसिंग योर ओल्ड इमेजेस या फिर बहुत सारे पुराने चैट्स को आप एक्सेस नहीं करते होगे. ऑल दोस डेटा आर जस्ट बीइंग देयर डॉर्मेंट, ठीक है. सो व्हाट वी डू इज कि आप इंटरनेट सर्विस प्रोवाइडर इसको वेयर हाउस कर देते हैं. इन दैट केस इट्स चीपर, प्लस दोज डेटा आर यूज्ड फॉर एनालिटिक्स पर्पस, ठीक है. आप आगे ट्रेन कर सकते हो अपने मॉडल्स को बेस्ड ऑन दैट. आई होप द डेटा वेयर हाउसिंग इज क्लियर. Right. Any questions you have, guys, please? Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please ask. I am asking another question. Do you know what is a virtual machine? VM in short. What is a virtual machine? Attempting a virtual machine. Virtual machine is based on the concept of virtualization, right? Yeah, software based emulation of a physical computer. इसको सिंपली अगर समझें तो जैसे आप अपना लैपटॉप यूज कर रहे हो, so you have it at present, right? अभी आपके लैपटॉप में might be there is a 8 GB of RAM, there is a 16 GB of RAM, right? But let's say when you use a virtual machine, basically क्या है कि there is a laptop, something you can understand. It is built कहीं पे, maybe stored in US, in London, somewhere else, right? आप उसमें से कुछ भी यूज कर सकते हो. So you don't have to go and physically buy a 32 GB का RAM. आप अपना खुद का वर्चुअल मशीन बना सकते हो विद 32 GB ऑफ रैम, यू नो, और 2 TB ऑफ स्टोरेज. ठीक है, हर एक चीज पे आप उस हिसाब से बना सकते हो. सो बेसिकली इट्स योर कंप्यूटर, a whole computer that is not physically present with you, but you can access it using either your mobile phone or your laptop. You can use another, a virtual laptop, right? It is based on the concept of virtualization, right? Again, virtualization is what? Basically, again, creating, virtual versions of servers, storages, networks, right? All combined, you create a virtual machine. All right, everyone. Now, I think I don't know if I discussed. So, ये आपके जितने भी cloud service providers है, right? AWS, Google Cloud, yeah, Azure. They work on a pay-as-you-go model, right? So, what do they work on? Pay-as-you-go. Yeah. They work on pay as you go model. यानी कि आप जितना यूज कर रहे हो, the resources you're using, you're only going to pay for that much, right? अगर आपने 1 GB of RAM यूज किया, you're only going to pay for 1 GB of RAM, right? Everyone, any questions do you have? I'll end the class a bit early today. So even before we start tomorrow's class, please have a AWS account created. ठीक है, एक स्टूडेंट अकाउंट क्रिएट करो आप AWS का. Try to learn some Linux commands, although we'll be teaching here, but again classes में आप limited कर सकते हो, आपको खुद से करना होंगी चीजें, right, after the class. So my kind of homework to you will be that please try and learn some Linux commands. आप Windows user हो, you can run that on PowerShell. ठीक है, आप PowerShell में चला सकते हो, और there are some online you know platforms as well जहाँ पे आप अपना Linux commands practice कर सकते हो. As I'm waiting, if you have any questions, please write down. You can see there are pricing calculators as well. Here you can use how much storage you're going to use and everything, and they can give you an estimate of how much charges you will be paying. Everything is on the internet, guys, right? हर एक चीज. So basically from your hosting, a website को host करते हो, right? So you can be hosting it via Vercel, Netlify, something like that, right? Everything is working on cloud, right? Especially IoT devices. Does anyone know what is IoT? What is IoT, guys? Yeah, Internet of Things is the full form. Could you give me a definition? Yeah, network of objects, that is connected over the internet, right? For example, your Alexa could be an example of the IoT. Okay, you have a smart fan, you have a smart bulb, right? That is connected through an app. That's an example of an IoT. Again, IoT के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा important क्या है? Cloud computing. Does anyone know what is edge computing? Who knows what is a cloud computing? ठीक है. एज कंप्यूटिंग में क्या होता है, जो भी एज होगा, जो भी आपके नियरेस्ट एज होगा आपके क्लाउड का, वो वहीं पे उस चीजों को प्रोसेस कर देगा, राइट? इंस्टेड ऑफ सेटिंग एवरीथिंग ओवर द क्लाउड, राइट? सो द लेटेंसी ऑफ एज कंप्यूटिंग इज वेरी लो. ठीक है, क्योंकि वो नियर द एज हो रहा है, आपके पास ही हो रहा है वो प्रोसेस, राइट? रिस्पॉन्स टाइम इज वेरी लेस. अगेन, क्योंकि लेटेंसी कम है, रिस्पॉन्स टाइम विल बी लेस. स्टोरेज एंड कंप्यूटिंग इज वेरी लिमिटेड, राइट? द मोस्ट एंड कंप्यूटिंग का जो सबसे ज्यादा यूसेज होता है, दैट इज योर IoT, right? IoT is one of the examples that is best suited for the edge cover. The second best is vehicle. अब आप सोचिए your driving car, your vehicle, भाई बहुत ज्यादा देर हो जाएगा in case of a accident or something, the emergency, things won't active. All right. Okay, guys, we will be ending the class today a bit early. Basic definitions हमारा हो चुका है. कल से हम लिनक्स कमांड्स के साथ स्टार्ट करेंगे, राइट? विल अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज लिनक्स, व्हाट इज बैश स्क्रिप्टिंग, एवरीथिंग, राइट? एंड देन we'll move forward with the actual AWS. If you have no doubts, please let me know and I'll end the class for today. Tomorrow by Jashra sir, ठीक है, he will be taking your class.